Greetings, hi, how are you? That's my intro, whatever. Just got done watching WWDC 2018, and so obviously they announced iOS 12, they announced Apple Watch software, the WatchOS 5, tvOS, and macOS. So at first, when they had first started out, they started out with iOS, and I knew when they started out with iOS, I knew that meant that it was going to be a small release, but that wasn't anything we didn't expect. We knew that the release was going to be really small. This is common knowledge. In fact, the keynote's still going on as I'm recording this right now, but I turned it off because there was a stupid video at the end that I don't give a shit about. But anyway, so when they announced iOS 12, I was content. Like, I don't mind the smaller release. Like, if they're gonna focus on if they're gonna focus on stability and stuff, I'm fine with that being a small release. Some things like shortcuts, like Siri shortcuts, that looks amazing. Group notifications is also awesome. When they announced it, I was like freaking out. I was like, yes, finally. I've been waiting for years for that, so that's really cool to see. If you see me looking over, I'm looking at a cute thing I have of things that I don't want to forget. Group FaceTime actually looks really cool too. I didn't really care about photos, news, stocks, voice memos. I didn't care about that, so that wasn't a big deal to me. But then they got to iMessage. I felt like that was a really missed opportunity because they started announcing the iMessage camera. And when they were announcing that, I was thinking, oh, are they going to do like a Snapchat kind of like disappearing messages thing? And I just feel like it was a missed opportunity. iMessage should be more of a social space, and it is, but I feel like it's been lacking in recent years, and other third-party apps have been really, really making better social platforms. So I feel like iMessage is slowly starting to diminish, and we could use things like Snapchat as a main source of communication. So I feel like it was a missed opportunity. The iMessage camera's cool, but it would have been cool to see like disappearing messages, stories and stuff implemented into iMessage. It's a shame we didn't get that, but no one expected that, so I mean, I'm not really like disappointed. But they could have also done stuff like they implemented the 32 people in one FaceTime. They could also expand on like group messaging inside of iMessage. So I don't really understand why they didn't do stuff like that. If they were going to make iMessage a key feature to talk about in the keynote, I'm surprised they didn't have more to talk about other than animojis, which I don't give a flying crap about. I don't care about them. Same with Memoji. I don't care about it at all. I don't even have an iPhone 10 yet, so I don't really care about it. But I also don't care about ARKit, but they spent like 20 minutes talking about it. I don't think anyone really cares about it. It's just something that they gotta talk about. Like, I don't think anyone actually really cares about it. Now, one last welcoming thing that I really liked was the diagnostics, do not disturb, and enhanced notifications. Like I said, with the group notifications, all that is extremely welcomed, and I think it's much needed in the operating system. So I'm happy they implemented it. So when they closed with iOS, I was content. I was like, okay, like it seems like a pretty solid, stable update. In fact, I'm going to be downloading it later today, so I'll be testing it. But usually at the end of the iOS keynote, they always talk about like extra features that they don't have time to actually like talk deeper about, and they didn't do that this year. So I was like, that's a little weird. So I was like, whatever, I'm going to download it today, I'll discover it myself, which I still am going to do. So everything was fine and dandy. I was like, okay, this looks like a pretty stable release coming soon, so I'm looking forward to it. And then they got to the Mac release, and may I say before, the one thing I was hoping this year was for a dark mode in iOS. I don't think it's that much to ask for. We already have Smart Invert. I really don't think it's that hard to ask for dark mode. I think especially if you're going to announce things like diagnostics and screen time and like controlling the way you use your phone, wouldn't you want dark mode to be implemented on your device that you're staring at so much? Like, it's not only is it a cool feature, like look-wise, like it looks cool, but it's an important feature. It's an important feature for our eyes and for our battery life and things like that. It's a very important feature, and it's just so I'm like dumbfounded. When they announced macOS, the very first thing they talked about, and Craig Federighi talked about it for like literally 5 minutes, was dark mode for macOS. And while I will say it looks fantastic, it looks awesome, can't wait to have it on my device, that's going to be cool. I was ready to literally throw my laptop at the thought that they're emphasizing and announcing dark mode for macOS and just completely ignore iOS when Mac's apps like iMessage, the new Apple News app, things like that, they're all implemented to have dark mode in them on macOS, but they're like virtually the same app on iOS. So seeing that, I'm literally dumbfounded. Like I said, I literally wanted to throw my laptop, like when I was watching the keynote, seeing that. Now, there is always a slight chance, and I'll probably post a new video later going over new features in iOS 12, but there is a slight chance that it's in there and they just didn't talk about it because they wanted to make it more important for Mac, and they didn't think it was a huge feature for iOS. But if they're going to do that and talk about not merging iOS and macOS, but talk about how they want to make the apps run on Mac and stuff like that, they talked about that today in the keynote. If they talked about all that stuff and then mention macOS dark mode, but don't say anything about iOS, I highly doubt it's in there. So I know I'm going to be even more disappointed when I get my hands on iOS. But if it's in there, obviously I'm going to make a video on it. But this is just... it's dumbfounding to me that they would announce macOS dark mode, but not iOS dark mode, and talk about how awesome of a feature it is. It blew my mind. And it's just like, Apple, when are you going to listen to your fans? When are you going to listen to people who are using your device? I've had an iPhone for years and years and years. The only other phone I had was a Moto X. I had 2 of them because they did things better and they listened to users. And it's just astounding to me to see that they announce iOS and macOS and emphasize dark mode on macOS, but don't say anything or don't even announce anything for it in iOS, when that's been something everyone has wanted for so long. I don't know. I gotta end this video here because I don't want it to go on too long, but I am just disgusted at that. I'll have my hands on iOS 12 in a few hours, so once that's out, I'll do some coverage of it, but that's just sickening to me. Everything else with macOS looked fantastic. iOS, aside from that little thing, looked good, but Apple, when are you going to listen to your fans, man? Like, that really bothers me. It actually genuinely irritates me, because they're going to make it this huge feature in macOS, but everyone wants it for iOS and they don't give it to us. That's just disappointing, man. Anyway, I'll have more content out here today as the hours go by. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.